Hello, everybody. Today we are joined by someone who's been trailblazing at the intersection of science, storytelling, and web design for nearly a decade, maybe more. David is the CEO and co founder at Scalar Marketing, a global agency helping science and tech brands bring their innovations to life online. He's a board member at SAMS, which stands for the Sales and Marketing Professionals in Science, a trusted voice in the community. He's also a rock climber, a natural storyteller, and you'll find out in a few minutes why he's also a globetrotter. I'm excited to dive into all the good things that scale our brands and maybe scale our lives, which is a callback to something else that David worked on in the past. Please welcome from outside the United States, the CEO and co-founder of Scalar Marketing. Welcome to the Sound of Inbound, David.
Thanks, man. How's it going?
I'm going good. How is it going out there?
It's good. I appreciate that intro. It's beautiful. Everything's going great.
Tell us where
Can't
you're
complain.
calling in from.
So technically I'm in Mexico at the moment.
Okay.
Why am I in Mexico? It's a good question. We're still trying to figure that out, but we've temporarily repositioned ourselves here as a family for a number of different reasons. It's an amazing world where you can pretty much do anything from anywhere if you have the right tools.
Well, maybe we should talk about that. That's really good. And, obviously this was a big move for your family. This just happened, correct?
Yeah, we moved like not even 3 weeks ago yet. So we're
Wow. Okay. Well, to
if
get everybody
if I don't sound Mexican yet, that's why.
No. You got to bring the flavor of the U.S. down there. I will get to that in a few minutes. I wanted to get you started on a fun question if you're up for it. I ask everybody that comes onto the show, what universe would you like to live on? So would you mind if I ask you a few questions and see where you might want to prefer? It starts off pretty easy. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Okay. Star Wars or Marvel?
Star Wars. That's it. I just think Star Wars, Marvel is more like it's like here. It seems like it's mostly cities here. I guess it's made up cities, but Star Wars is like this incredible galaxy with all these beautiful worlds, and it's more scenic, at least in the movies.
Yes, it is more scenic, and it is, of course, where the Force is with us all. Okay, Star Wars or Harry Potter?
Star Wars.
Okay,
I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, but it's just that's my answer.
This is really fascinating. Okay, well, I got a couple easy ones. Star Wars or Hunger Games?
Which side of the Hunger Games am I on?
Well, that depends. Would you want to live in the Hunger Games universe?
I guess I'm going to go with Star Wars again.
Okay, Star Wars. Okay, and then this one's just for fun, but Star Wars, well, I have a couple more for fun. Star Wars or Back to the Future?
Is Back to the Future its own universe?
I think
Back to the Future, because why not? I mean, the idea that you could travel through time and see different eras, yeah, that'd be really cool. I would do that.
Yeah, I know. I love that too, especially the optimistic version of 2015 that they gave us that didn't come to life, but I wish it was. I wish it was
so long ago.
I would love to know your origin story. Where are you from originally?
So I was born in New Jersey. Yeah, I was actually born on Princeton. I was born at the hospital in Princeton and lived on Princeton campus till I was 5, while my father was getting a PhD. So that was where I was born and somewhat raised, and then we moved to Boston area when I was 5 years old.
I was raised up in New Jersey. I was born in New York and raised in New Jersey, right on the shadow of the George Washington Bridge. I have a different appreciation I think people do of New Jersey. I'm sure you do as well. It was actually probably pretty, like, it wasn't that urban where you were. It's kind of that, it's like, it is called the Garden State, right?
New Jersey does get a really bad rap. There are some really nice places, but you drive through some places of New Jersey and it really just feels like New York just kind of vomited cement all over parts of New Jersey. And that's all you would know if you were there. But everywhere outside of kind of where it touches New York, and maybe Trenton's, I remember whenever we used to drive down, so when we moved to Boston, we'd visit my family in Pennsylvania, New Jersey. We'd always have to drive through Trenton, and they have that bridge, which like Trenton makes what and the world takes. Something that's the slogan on the bridge. I have very clear memories of driving past that bridge all the time. But outside of that, it's really nice in New Jersey.
So we are two Jersey boys, and you were mentioning something that I think can be brought back to brand for a minute. So I didn't intend to come up this way, but it is funny that everything does connect to brand. The brand in New Jersey is actually not that great. You're right. It's got a bad rep.
I don't know how they managed to do that, but
I don't know how they managed to do it too. I'm not sure if it was like the news cycle over the decades or if it's the fact that, like you just said it so well. that New York just kind of vomited concrete all over across the bridges, and that's what you get. But it's so much more. So for those out there, don't try don't try to judge New Jersey by also the current bad rap of the airport. That's also
Well,
it's also kind
yeah.
of gone south. But yes, it is actually got a lot of other sides to it, and it's actually a really great place if you
Yeah.
get to know it. If
They
you get
got
to know it.
beaches, golf
Yeah, they got
courses.
beaches. Think about that. Oh, of course, then the Jersey Shore. Now we're talking about that show. All right, this is not
Jersey.
going
Well,
well.
yeah, I
All
guess
right.
that's where maybe that's part of it.
What got you into our industry? What got you into marketing and technology?
Well, okay, you can go as back as living on Princeton campus and my father getting a PhD in molecular biology and growing up in labs, right? So we actually moved to Boston because he had his postdoc at New England Biolabs and ended up spending his entire career at NEB. And I was the little kid running around the hall. I mean, this was like I couldn't do this now, I don't think, because they actually have like a security desk and you can't just walk in. But back in their old campus in Beverly, I mean, after school, I would just walk in. I would go and sell candy bars to all the people in the labs. I would come in and put my hands on petri dishes and come back a week later. And so like that's just how I grew up. And then I think like many people, I didn't know what I was supposed to do with my life. And I found myself in college wanting a college experience and needing to pick a major. So I picked biology, thinking that, well, that's what I know. And I'm sure I'll find something that I can do with that one day. And then it took me a few years to really figure out that sitting at a lab bench was not for me. And I ended up moving. I actually did multi-level marketing for a few years and had some odd end jobs to kind of, live at the same time. But while I did not succeed in that, which is the case most of the time, I learned an incredible amount of things having to do with business and sales and marketing. It completely changed my perspective on what's possible in the world, and I ended up so I got into, you could say, marketing. My first kind of job after those odd jobs was directing a youth group back in my hometown of Swampscott, Massachusetts. And, we reached over 200 teens over the course of a few years, and it was a really successful program. We were in the local newspapers almost weekly. We would get 40, 50 kids coming to our events. It was a lot of fun. And I saw a lot of the success of that looking back, applying to jobs afterwards as, I think that was branding. That was
Mhm.
really creating an energy and something that people were attracted to and wanted to be a part of. And I used that to get my first job as director of sales and marketing for a manufacturing company in Los Angeles. And basically building off of that, what I really believed was a branding experience.
When we think about inbound marketing, we're trying to think about the trifecta of right time, right place, right audience. And that is supposed to create a brand with gravity. People come to us, we don't have to go to them. So even in that experience, it sounded as if you were finding and kind of revealing how to build a brand, even with that first experience you had right out of college. Was that more about the community building that you felt made it magnetic? What do you think made it so sticky? Why do you think people wanted to come to you and be part of your events, even in that early part of your career phase? I'd love to hear about that.
I mean, this definitely touches on how we approach our work now with Scalar, but a big part of it was I think it just looked cool. Like it appealed both visually and in the way we spoke about what we were trying to do. It appealed to the people that we were trying to attract, right? If
Know
something
your
looks
audience.
cool, it piques people's interest, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Then
yeah.
you got to back it up with good programs and good classes and events and whatever. But I just think we did a really good job of making it look attractive, and it was also, I think, you talk about inbound, there's a bit of a mix of like, okay, you want to be there so that people can find you, but it also doesn't hurt to reach out to the teens and talk to them, send them a message, be like, hey, are you coming to this event? Like show them that you actually care about them as individuals, as opposed to just being something that looks cool and is easy to find, right? So I think there's a big mix.
You've obviously pulled this into your career going forward. And I think it is remarkable also to have an understanding and appreciation for different kinds of parts of the industry when you do enter into marketing and not just come in straight as a straight pure marketer. So I think it is kind of fun that you have to be in the trenches, be in sales, and then all of a sudden now you're in marketing and now you're also in technology. So it's kind of an interesting thing to kind of play off of all those different skills. And I'm guessing all of that helps every single day, right?
Sure. I think so.
Sure. So give me a sense of like what do you think makes a brand magnetic today? What do you think helps brands bring people in?
So again, I think we have to keep in mind that people are people. right? This was actually a lesson that I learned at my that first sales and marketing job after the teen program. I remember very clearly having a conversation with my boss one day and saying like, "Okay, boss, we got to do a better job of marketing these products. Like they're just not exciting. You know, we need better photography, we need better design. Like we got to redo our website, right?" And his response was, "No, we don't. We're a B2B company. Our clients who were dealers who owned stores and would, you know, they were the distributor dealers, right? All they want to know is that the products are going to make them money. So they need to know profit margins, they need to know sales numbers." And I remember reacting to that thinking, I mean, if we don't do a good job of marketing these products and making them exciting, first of all, their customers aren't going to want to buy them. And if we're being honest with ourselves, the buyers at these dealerships are people too, right? Like they're also going to be drawn to something that appeals to them as individuals. And so whether you're B2B, whether you're B2C, it's all P to P. It's people to people. And if you can appeal to people and say things that appeals to people and show things that attracts people, right? Like I think we have to respect our clients enough to believe that they have preferences and they're drawn to certain things and like they're emotional beings as well, right? And if we forget that and say, it doesn't matter, then I think we're only hurting ourselves.
We're not selling to companies no matter what the organization is all about. We are always selling to people. And I don't want to believe there's a future, but I want to get into AI with you that we're going to be selling to bots and the bots are going to make the decisions for us and all that kind of garbage. So for me, I'm 100% on the same pathway as you are of whoever we're working with, B2B or B2C or whatever else is going on. At the end of the day, it's a person to person relationship that you're trying to establish and trust. You know, it's more than just a large company coming, or even hiring a large company. You are at the end of the day having a personal relationship with those people. That's really really important. So I'm curious to note, what brand out there are you in love with? Like you really really are behind. Is there any brand out there that you would say big supporter of? You love it?
That's a really hard question because it's funny. I don't tend to think of myself as like a brand enthusiast. So like I don't have particular, I mean, I think Apple's an amazing brand. Like if you want to talk about like brands that I'm really impressed by, I'm really impressed by Apple as a brand. When I think about, like, okay, I'm really into sports and athletics and exercise, like I don't actually wear a lot of Under Armour clothing, but I think Under Armour is just a really cool brand, and they've done a very good job of branding themselves and really identifying who they are. Like, I don't necessarily get that feeling from Nike, but I think Nike's an amazing company, right? Like, it's just interesting when I think about stuff that way. Um, like I think North Face is an amazing brand.
These are like lifestyle brands, and it's really funny that you're picking these out because
Well,
even
I
being
get,
where you are right now, it's a very like outdoorsy kind of vibe that I'm seeing from behind you at this point. And so I'd imagine you might be outdoors more often, and you're like picking off all of these,
Yeah.
all
Well,
these
Apple, not
athleisure and
necessarily. I guess it's apples
Apple,
that
yeah.
grow outside. Yeah, but those are the things that I'm drawn to, right? Like, I mean, look at the Scalar brand. It's all like we've really tried to design the Scalar brand as, I mean, I don't want to say we've tried to design it as a lifestyle brand, but the idea of mountain climbing and outdoors is a huge part of the identity of the brand. When we started designing sites, especially for the more science and tech industry, what we saw was there's a lot of sites that are kind of boring, right? And we saw lifestyle brands creating these really cool, engaging, exciting, beautiful sites. And we thought, well, why can't you have both? Right? Like, why does science and technology have to mean boring? So
Mhm.
let's try to work with designers that maybe don't even have a background in the sciences. And we have to do a good job of understanding the client and really find that balance, because if it feels too different, then it's not going to appeal to the people that need to use the website. But how do we combine the two and create things that are much more engaging and really appeal to people's emotional sides?
You're like hitting on every point. So just to break that down for half a second, I'm always about trying to find the parallels between, not the parallels, find the lessons learned on the B2C side, because you can find yourself emotionally attaching yourself to certain brands. And as I've shared many times before, this is the epitome of what marketing is trying to achieve. You want people to attach themselves emotionally to your brand and have this feeling about it all the time. And that's the easiest way for us to recall it. So I like to find that magic and pull it out of the B2C world and bring it over to the B2B world because just like you said,
Yeah.
it's very formal, it's very it's scientific. It can be exciting, but we have to find that way to make it exciting. And I like to find the inspiration from the consumer side. So you're doing that. You're kind of like doing that naturally. And that's excellent.
No, I was just saying, I like you guys do that too. Like I even told you this when we were walking around Bio together. It's like there's very few booths at events that I look at and I say they're doing something right. And I didn't know that it was booths that you designed until we had talked. I was like, oh, like you guys get it. You get that, and you really try to bring that emotional aspect out of the work that you do as well.
We get excited about the science. And I think it's hard for folks who have had a career in science to express that passion and excitement to a larger audience. They could do it to like one to one, which helps in sales. But on the one to many, it's a very hard lift for them to figure out how to take that story and that passion and to communicate it outward. So we get excited with them and we're like, oh, there's the easiest. This is easy to us. We can make this exciting. These days, especially some of the technologies that are coming out in life sciences, it sounds like Star Trek and it sounds like Star Wars. It's like the technology they're working on right now is just so mind blowing. And you can't even believe that it's happening. So for us, we do get very excited about it and we want to craft a very interesting story. So back to like those lifestyle brands and how you were inspired to build the Scalar marketing brand. I'm all about like trying to find those little golden nuggets and try to see if we could sneak it over to the B2B side, just like you are. And you can see he's very branded today. He's wearing his Scalar marketing shirt. You can see the top of the mountain. There you go. The opposite question is, are there any brands that have failed you? Any brands that you just love to hate?
My answer to this is so ridiculous. And
No,
it's
it's
not even, I
okay.
don't even know if this is a brand, but it's like the only thing that comes to mind because I really like, I don't try to hate anything. So like if something's really negative to me, I just try not to think about it, but I can't stand Cher. I'm just going to be honest. And I know some people love her. I just can't stand her. I don't know what it is, but one of my roommates in college knew this. And I don't know. I still to this day don't know how he did this. I showed up on my computer, and this was, I mean, I was in college. This was probably 2002, 2003. So we all had a desktop computer with like the motherboard
Mhm.
down in the bottom. And I go to use my computer, and it immediately starts blasting Cher music. And I, for the life of me, could not figure out how to turn it off. And it was like playing for like 30 minutes. And it was like the worst torture I've ever experienced in my
Oh my
life.
God, that's hysterical. There are some artists out there that have written music though that have gotten the earworm down. And she is certainly one of those artists that have done a fantastic
She
job of
is.
just knowing the pulse of what pop culture is about and then finding something to kind of express it. So you got to give her credit on that. Also,
Well,
she'll get on stage in like a unitard at 70 some odd years old and dance in front of the world half naked. I mean, I'm
I
not
wasn't going to
gonna
say it,
do
but
that.
thank you. Yes,
Yeah, well,
you're
I
the
mean,
host.
talk
You're
about a
allowed to say
brand.
that. Well, and so here's the deal. You said it before. It's really hard to appeal to a lot of people, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think what most companies are afraid to do is risk turning other people off, right? So it's like they try to appeal to everybody. She's not trying to appeal to everybody. She's like, I don't care, and that's going to really offend some people, and it's going to really attract other people. And I think that's part of like to her credit. I think she has done that well. And I'm just one of the people that she wasn't built for, I suppose.
Okay. So I'm going to bring it back to the B2B side, believe it or not. When I think about folks that are putting themselves out there, they're interesting. They have an opinion. And even one of the folks on our team has said to us even last year, they're like, if we're going to do social media, we better have an opinion about something. Otherwise, it just feels so flat. And that is, I want to say to all of my cameras pointing at, I want to say to all the people that might be listening to this, and I hope there are a few, if you're running a B2B right now, you do have to have a differentiator, and that's only going to be established if you have an opinion. So you got to put yourself out there and don't be so perfect about it. I think people like the fact that things are more spontaneous and not so perfect. It makes us feel more real. So
Yeah,
there
absolutely.
are so many things that
Authenticity. We
authenticity.
have to talk about that. I heard a line once, and it was way less controversial when I heard it, but I'll say it anyways. If you can get half the country to hate you, you can become the president of the United States. And I think there's something to that.
And it's true.
Like I said, it was a lot less controversial when I said it, but either way, it's true. It was true back then. This was what, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Well, I do think that when it comes to trying to build a brand, you want to make it memorable for that audience. It doesn't have to be memorable for the entire world because there are so many brands you and I work on. that we would say are a big deal, but to the rest of the world, they're like, "What company are you talking about? I can't even pronounce it." But for us, it means something. Like, no, you don't understand. This is the organization that pretty much produces all the world's drugs. Like, yeah, I don't even know who that is. So for us, it's like, yes, they have a personality, they have a persona to us that we try to remember when we think of them, and there's that one word that comes to mind. I'm asking, I should bring this back to you with the work that you guys do. Do you find yourself, even with your own organization, trying to become known for one thing?
I wouldn't necessarily say one thing, but yes, we definitely focus. And there's two angles to this question. One is, you know, I, as a representative of my company, have things that I want to be known for. And I, as the CEO founder of a company, have things that I want the company to be known for. So I would answer that question, yes, in both ways. And then there's a balance of, well, like, how do I represent myself versus how do I represent the company? I think that's all important. I think every team member of a company is a representative of that company, and everybody can add to the brand appeal of a company, right? I guess as you get bigger and companies become more strict, I mean, that's part of the problem. Is bigger companies tend to strangle any sort of creativity out of anybody that has to do with anything having to do with marketing and branding of the company. But that maybe we can talk about that in a separate conversation.
Yeah, they do end up sanitizing it, but certain brands out there, like the ones you mentioned earlier, have done a good job of carrying a certain kind of personification of their brand forward, even if they have scaled. Because you do think of certain organizations, I'll mention like REI, and you immediately think
Mhm.
outside. Or Patagonia, they named themselves after a very famous place on Earth, so it's hard not to think of all of those very dramatic, geography out there. Is there one word you like to say for folks that they should remember you by when they meet you after they met you? They want you.
Me
Yes, yes,
personally,
yeah.
personally,
What
one word,
word would you use for yourself?
one word that I would use for myself, maybe adventurous.
Adventurous. Okay, I like
Yeah,
that.
ask me tomorrow and it might be different, but I'll go with adventurous.
Okay, we're gonna go with adventurous. I think that could be applied to all sorts of parts of one's career, so I'm gonna leave it at that. That's a good one. That's a good one, and it also invites questions, which is good too.
It does.
Okay, I wanted to see if we could just talk more about some of the trends and all that kind of stuff, but we're gonna do that after the break. I think before we get on the break, though, why don't you just tell me a little bit more about scalar marketing and how you got it started?
So I was working in LA, and this was early on in my career as far as real jobs went, and I was learning a whole lot of stuff and realizing more and more that the stuff that I was learning wasn't really applicable to the way that that company was built. And I think a lot of things were good for the founder of that company, and he built an amazing company, but it wasn't necessarily good for me with a more entrepreneurial spirit, really wanting to try to work my way up in what was a relatively small company. There was not very far to go. And I didn't really feel like I had a lot of applicable skills to say, okay, I'm going to apply to a big, like Patagonia was there out in LA, actually applied to a job. I never heard back from him, like, cause I didn't really have a specific job description and I didn't have a ton of experience. I ended up having triplets at the time. So we have more now, but like very quickly found myself with 3 kids thinking, how am I supposed to bridge the gap between what I'm making now and what I really think I need to be making to kind of grow with this family? And I think my best option is starting a business. Like, I actually hear of a lot of people, like some of the best salespeople in the world were people that had zero applicable skills. So they went into sales, and you can actually make a lot of money in sales, right? So, and you can make a big difference. So that's kind of, I thought, well, why don't I just move back across the country with my family of 5 and start a business? And I was in the marketing sphere. Remember, I had the opportunity, the experience with the youth group, and I really love the creative process. I'm not a designer myself per se, but I love working with designers and like creating amazing things. And I love the idea of like you can create something and create emotion in people. That really had to do a lot with marketing. So when I started the company, I thought, well, I was always a good math student, so maybe it should be like analytics based, and I'll just sell analytics services, whatever that means. We didn't have AI at the time, but I'll ask Google what that means. And what I found was that like local flower shops and lawyers and things, they don't care about analytics, or they don't
No.
have the money to pay for services
Yeah.
having to do with analytics.
Yeah.
But most of my early clients just needed websites, and for whatever reason, I think the process resonated with me, and I was able to envision what a business built around websites and web design could look like. And then it was just a process of, okay, well, how do we build better websites? How do we build bigger websites? And eventually I wanted to get back into the science because that was my background. I really wanted to feel like the companies that I was working for were making a difference in the world. And so that's kind of how we got where we are now.
That's awesome. Yeah. I would say websites in a way had found me. I found it, but I think that it was the thing I was imagining in my head. I wanted to find the convergence of design and storytelling and even animation and all this kind of interesting interactive work, plus the technology in a way that a lot of people would see it. It was like it just kind of became this magical little thing for me. And I couldn't
Yeah.
expect at the time. I mean, this is back in the 90s. I couldn't describe what I was wanting to do. And then to see that there was this new platform that you could bring it all together was very exciting for me. And that's why I got into websites myself.
And this
Uh,
was back then where websites were like text on a white background.
exactly.
Like you were lucky if you could
Exactly.
get a photo to load, right? But
Right.
but even then, that was the face of the company now. I mean, and it's only evolved since then, and you can do so many things. Like we have the ability to really change the image of an entire company, right? Like that's what is the first thing that people see most of the time is the website. So we really get to define the brand from that perspective.
It's very exciting. You can also learn a lot about a company through AI, which we're going to talk about after the break.
Let's do it.
Okay, cool. Everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, so we just came back from the break, and David just revealed the fact that, and he said it during the first part of our interview, but I picked it
Just
up and
kind of
I'm like,
slip
wait, hold
that
on a
in.
second.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, he has triplets and twins.
Twins within the triplets.
Twins within the triplets. Okay. And then a boy and then a girl.
Right.
Oh, okay. And we were thinking about all the fun social experiments you could do when you have triplets.
Yep.
So,
Not just with
so-
your own kids, with seeing other people's facial reactions to
oh
things
my
too.
God.
We've heard all sorts of crazy things. Yeah.
So how does the other triplet deal with the fact that the other two are twins?
So what it is it's the three are, it was two eggs and one of the eggs split. So that's the dynamic. You have two that are technically identical twins and one that's a fraternal. It's all girls. The fraternal is clearly a different personality. Like the two identicals are very much more close to each other. They look more similar. They act more similar. The fraternal she's very different. She's also like 3 inches taller. A lot of people think like she's the oldest. She's actually the youngest of the three, which is interesting, by
But how
30
she acts,
seconds.
it's like she's the oldest. I get that. Okay. I
Yeah,
get that.
yeah. Hopefully they don't watch, they can watch this one day. But it's just a very interesting dynamic. Also within the identicals, one has glasses now and one doesn't, right? Like they clearly have different interests, and you
Yeah.
have to wonder like how much. I don't know where the braid, because they're both raised, they're all raised in the same house. They're
Mhm.
it's a
Exposed to
fascinating
the same
thing to kind
things.
of
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, we are all unique. But then you have a son, and you said that
Mhm.
there's an age gap. There's a couple of years
About
between the twins.
5 year gap. So he's
Okay.
5 and the girls are
And then
10,
there's another girl.
and then we have a 3-year-old girl. Yeah.
Okay. I feel for the boy. I feel for your son. He's going to have a lot of things in the future. A lot of people taking care of him. I'll just put it that way.
He's got a lot of people looking out for him.
Now that we're back, I want to talk trends. So,
Sure.
what's happening in the world of website development, website design, experiential, marketing on interactive? That's exciting for you right now. What's happening right now that you're excited about?
I don't love talking about trends when it comes to websites because I find that a lot of trends tend to be very experimental. And we're always trying to find the balance between we want to be experimental and we want to push the limits, but we just can't go too far or else the website's not going to be user friendly. It's
Mhm.
going to be too, especially in a market like sciences where you kind of have to appeal to the audience. And if it's too out there, if it's too hard to find your way around, people aren't going to want to use it, and that's bad, right? And I always find if you go to go to awards, right, and go look at their site, AWWWARDS, right? They're beautiful. They do a lot of amazing technical things on their websites, but half the time I don't even know what they're trying to sell, right? So you're winning design awards, but you're not necessarily creating experiences that are going to actually help people understand who you are as a company and find what they need to find. So I don't love talking about trends. I think if you want to look at trends, go over there, look at that. I think there's a lot of things that are happening with AI right now that we could argue whether or not they're real, whether or not they matter as much as companies pushing the services want you to think they matter. I'm seeing a lot, not necessarily a lot, but I'm seeing people trying to use AI beyond just a chatbot that can answer questions.
Hmm.
And I so far to date don't love what I've seen, and I'm still trying to think, well, like, how can you practically use this on a website? I think I had told you recently, there's this one site, it's an agency that I have a lot of respect for as an agency. I think they've built some amazing websites, beautiful websites with a lot of moving parts and beautiful imagery. And they recently completely redesigned their site and turned it into a giant chatbot, essentially,
Hmm.
all
Yep.
AI driven. And my reaction to that is, I don't find this attractive. It doesn't immediately hit me that you can do anything that's eye catching, right? Because it's just not. And now you're expecting me to think about what I'm supposed to ask you in order to find what you want me to know about you. Like the whole process just
A
seems
lot more work.
backwards to me.
A lot more work.
Yeah, like, well,
Well,
don't make me think about what question I should ask. Just make it easy for me to find what I need.
exactly. I would say that there are a lot of organizations that had, in the early part of the internet world, made their websites too far into the world of brochure web. There wasn't any information about the business, so you couldn't find anything about them. You didn't even know what kind of company it was. And then you find out they sell pickles, and you're like, oh, I do like pickles, but I didn't want to watch a 25-minute movie and watch a person getting chased through all these alleyways to find out they sell pickles. But it was like kind of like, what are we doing here? What are we selling? Everybody's now going to be this commercialized brand with these crazy experiential websites. But I loved doing that work. It was fun. It was just very short lived, almost like a firecracker kind of marketing strategy, no long term. And then we move into where we are now. And we talked about this is the information age, but oh my gosh, now we're deep in the information age. I'm almost thinking it's gone too far the other way. It's now we're building websites that are heavily text driven, almost Wikipedia like. And I'm a huge fan of Wikipedia. But it's very detailed and it's being designed, at least in my mind, and I'd love to get your take on this. It's that it's being designed to be picked up by the AI, to be able to answer questions for people that are offline and doing their own using their own tools of Claude or OpenAI or whatever it might be, to find out what businesses that might be a good fit for them. So it's going to go and do those searches for them, and it's going to pull this information back. I mean, do you feel like there can be a balance? I mean, like, or do you feel like going in that other direction and making them very informational rich is actually too far as well? Like, where do you feel like it should be sitting as far as
Well,
the modern website?
I mean, I think you can do both, and this is the problem I have with AI SEO, right, or geo, or whatever you want to call it. Before, with SEO, right, plain old historic Google results, you had 10 chances to show up on the first page. If you were number 3, that's pretty good, right? Like, you're probably still likely to get clicked on. With AI, you might only have one chance to show up number 1. I mean, that, like, AI is kind of showing, like, every once in a while, like, here's your top 10 agencies in your area. Like, you can get results like that, but for the most part, it's just one answer. And so if you weren't doing a good job before showing up when there was 10 possibilities, you're not going to do a good job now when there's only one possibility, right? So it's only actually making it harder. And this idea that you have to appeal to AI and understand this whole new world of AI SEO. I haven't seen any real evidence that that's actually true yet, because a lot of what AI is returning is actually from the internet anyways. And so if you're not appealing to Google, which is the number, I don't know what, like 95% of traffic goes through Google or some crazy number. If you're not appealing to Google, you're not going to appeal to AI. Like, there's no magic trick that because some agency is now pushing AI SEO, that all of a sudden you're going to start showing up if you weren't doing the basics to begin with, right? So I think that's part of it. I think it's just like, okay, let's get back to the basics. Let's make sure we're doing the right thing. But either way, there's definitely a world of there's a need for having lots of information on your website, but you have to make it easy for people to use still. And I think, Google also recognizes usability, right? If you just throw a bunch of information on your homepage, I mean, it could work. It depends on the industry. Like, I think a lot of industries are really, really competitive. And so it's like SEO isn't always your best strategy anyways, but you still have to find a way to structure everything well and make it easy, not just for Google, but for the user to find their way around.
Okay, you said SEO isn't always the best strategy anyway. What does that mean on a homepage? Tell me break that down for me.
So we have clients say we really want to appeal to SEO. We really want to appeal to Google. So we need like a certain number of words on our homepage. Like, okay, well, let's break this down because there's two things to consider here. One is how competitive is your industry? Because if you're just starting and you're in a competitive industry, take science, for example, right?
Mhm.
If you are selling a scientific service, you're competing against every Thermo Fisher and major company that's out there that has hundreds of thousands of pages on their website. They've been playing this game for as long as the internet's been around, spending millions of dollars on it, plus every major publication that probably has hundreds of articles that are entirely keyword rich, all interlinked to each other, and you're just going to show up and spend $1,000 and beat them. SEO might not be your best strategy. So now you have to think, okay, well, how am I going to get people to my website? And when I get people to my website, how am I going to make sure that that website is actually enjoyable to use? And if you're just loaded up with a bunch of information because you're trying to appeal to SEO to beat Thermo Fisher, you've just created a horrible user experience and you're not going to show up anyways.
You bring it back to what you said earlier. We're selling to people, so you want to think about what's the human experience on the website, of course,
Yeah.
and make sure things are going to be found easily. Do you think there's still value in making things experiential as well as information rich? Because people do need, and especially in our industry, they do want to get the answer of like, is the capacity I'm looking for, is the technology I'm looking for, is the capability I'm looking for there? I need to know. I need to figure out if this company has invested in this piece of equipment. But what do you think about the experiential side? Do you still think it has a place?
Absolutely. If I gave off the impression that I did not think that, then I take back everything that I said. But
No, no, you
yeah,
did not. You did not.
absolutely. I mean, that's the balance, right? It's how do you show that you are unique? How do you show that you are creative? How do you create something that's memorable and different while still making it really easy to understand what you do and find what you need to know in order to want to actually reach out and talk to somebody from our team?
The balance is extremely difficult. Yeah. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, you could very easily go too far in one direction. It's like I think it's a very thin line, but you have to find that balance.
So the nuance in working with you guys, especially, I'm sure, is to try to figure out the way to craft an experience that's going to be tailored to the audience, information rich, still experiential, check a lot of boxes. But I'm going to get
It
back to the
is,
AI
yeah.
side of things. I mean, your client's audience is going to probably use AI to try to determine if your clients are the right fit for them. So are you guys doing anything right now that you feel like is tailoring slightly to that AI search?
I mean, look, I still stand by, and I would love to know your opinion on this too, but I still stand by what I said earlier is that if you're not appealing to search engines, you're probably not appealing to AI either. Right. So, little things. Okay. So if people maybe it's making it much more conversational. So maybe the FAQs on your website, you really have to think a bit more like, what are people actually searching for? Google loves FAQs. We were already doing that. AI definitely loves FAQs. Right. So how do we appeal to potentially a more naturally way of speaking? I mean, I don't, I haven't tested this myself, but I also feel like AI is pretty smart. Like it knows that just because you're speaking naturally doesn't mean information on a website isn't answering your question as well. Like I found AI to be pretty intelligent. So, I don't know. I think it's still more or less the basics.
Another hard
What do you
question
think?
for
What do you think?
what do I
I'd
think?
love to know your thoughts. Yeah.
Well, there are some things that I'm learning more about what AI is looking for that's probably teaching me as well what SEO was always looking for because you just mentioned it. So when we're building sites now, I'm feeling like AI might only look at one sliver of a business based on that topic. And so what we've been learning was each page on a website needs to answer the question the person's looking for, but in context of that business, which means at the bottom of the screen, bottom of the page, it's probably worth it to put some kind of snippet of who that company is because that's what the bot might find and only find. So unlike Google, it might when it's looking at the entire site, it's really only looking at one tiny little sliver. Which trying to pull something out that my dad said years ago when he's doing his diabetes research, you can't treat a patient by just looking at them for half a second. What he was saying, like you think about the weather and opening a window and opening the window in the morning and seeing it's sunny closing the window, and then checking it again at 7 o'clock at night. Say, oh, the day looks great. You had no idea a hurricane came through. So you
Yep.
want to look at it a lot more. And I think with AI, it's probably just doing this tiny little sliver. It is only opening the window up for 1 second and learning all about that organization at that one little moment in time. And so I want to be able to give it a chance to learn. So you said something about FAQ. I think taking opportunities to put FAQ on the interior pages where you can and it's appropriate, so it's not gratuitously added everywhere, is helpful. It's very helpful. But as you said, it's
Yep.
probably helpful on the SEO side too. And if I was trying to learn about a business and I was going to just dive deep, and you said, trying to keep it back to the things that you're practicing on the good practice side, because I think it's really good. We want to make it designed for the human audience, not for just SEO, not for Autobots. But when the human gets to that page and they do want to have a number of questions answered, did we summarize the information well enough? Was it well enough organized so they can go through and find what they need? Are the questions answered? Do we understand who the business is? So they might drill right to that one page and be done with it and need to make an answer on that. So I think a lot of the web pages that we design always consider the funnel, always consider the awareness consideration, decision making funnel. As people scroll down, they're spending more time with us. So why not get more detailed, give them the relevant information if they want to kind of navigate out, but answer all the questions if we can, because we might only have
Yeah.
this one shot. The other thing I've been telling folks is like, expect that the people visiting your website are savvy already. We don't need to sell them the brand initially. Like there's other places for the outbound marketing to happen. When they're going to come to the site, you have them now. So, don't be a brochure web. Like just, you want to give them the information that they're looking for. You don't want to hide it. You want to try to be more transparent than you might have been before.
Yeah, well, so I would mostly agree with that. I do think there's instances where it is a relatively new brand, or they really are trying to position themselves and differentiate themselves, and so I guess that's where some of that experientialism would come in,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
how do we tell a bit more of a story about who we are? Because they might be looking at four of our competitors. You know what I mean? Like,
I
I think
agree.
we also have to assume that that's probably happening too. And I think there's really important messages you can send to people based on that experience. It's very easy to overdo it as well, to be fair. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, you're bringing up something that even I have a struggle with it too, and it's finding the balance of telling a good and compelling story and also sharing a ton of information and trying to address multiple persona, because that's what we're trying to do at the end of the day. But what I'm trying to lean in on is I do feel like the people who visit the website are now interested. You're not just going to get general traffic. I think people thought before anyone's going to find your website. Well, no, I think your audience is supposed to find your website, and when you're thinking about your audience, you should speak to them and not speak to the audience like they don't know what they're working on. You should speak to them as adults. So it shouldn't just be too sanitized is what I'm trying to get to. I think that there's, other things that are going on in AI that we use on a daily basis. And I'm wondering, there's a term I just learned recently called vibe coding. Is that the name? Is that the term? Do you know this
I don't
term?
know. Should I
I
know
hope
this
I'm
term?
using
You
it
always
correct.
throw new terms in me at me.
Okay, all right, all right,
Make
all
me
right.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
No, 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 no. Well, I'm wondering if you guys use AI when you're developing sites. We use AI in our marketing to do market research, and we also use it at times to check how we're working on a specific kind of script and things like that nature. So I'm wondering, in your world, are you also leveraging AI for anything that you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I use it to clean up emails all the time that I send to people. It's
Yep.
great for just like free flow, write whatever I need to say, and then ask AI to clean it. It's actually amazing. It does an amazing job. But we use it for coding all the time. Like, we have a little challenge, we're trying to solve it, and it's not perfect. You still kind of have to have a basic understanding of code in order to figure out how to test it and implement it and tweak it. But I know that our developers use AI all the time, because why spend 3 hours writing a snippet of code when AI can spit it back in 30 seconds, and then you can figure out if it's working. We don't use that for the whole website, but for pieces, absolutely. We don't do too much with imagery. I think, we have built sites, usually they're on the smaller side, where like literally every image on the website was AI and you would never know. We do use it for some copy, but you have to be careful, because it often sounds like AI. So it really depends on what it's for and who the industry is and what you're talking about. But yeah, we definitely use AI a lot. I mean, if you're not using AI out of stubbornness, I think you're only making your life unnecessarily harder, and other people are going to be much more productive and efficient than you are.
Okay. All
That's
right.
just my
Well,
opinion.
I fact checked myself while you were answering my question because I wanted to make sure I was not going down the
That's
wrong
why
path.
I never heard of it. No, I don't
No, 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 no. This is a
know.
2025 term, and we're still in 2025. So this is really, really net new. So for all those out there that don't know the term, I'm teaching it you now, teaching it to you now, and it is called vibe coding. And what that means is you're using a chat or a learning language model (LLM) to code. So you start up a coding engine, and then there's a chat window on the right or left, whatever it might be, and you're asking it to try some things like create a form that's going to do X, Y, and Z. And then the code will be written and it'll create it and it'll visualize it for you. And then you can say, okay, I want this form when it's submitted to do X, Y, and Z. And you can continue building on this and you're going back and forth with the AI to develop the thing you're trying to do. It's being used in application development right now. I'm not sure how much it's being used in web development right now, but it's a very interesting concept that non-developers have a chance to try to explain their idea and watch it getting built. The problem with that, unfortunately, is if you only have a background outside of development, you don't know what works and what doesn't work. You don't know what you don't know. And vibe coding still has the gap of it will error out. You still got to figure out why, or you have to ask it to fix it. And so there's a lot of tools out there right now that are starting to build this concept up of just tell us what you want and the AI will build it for you. But you still do need the specialty behind the scenes to know, is this building in the way that would scale? This is building in the way that needs to operate. And having an understanding of UX UI and how to build out systems and data schemas and all this other stuff. But for those that need to like just get kind of experiment with things, I think it's an interesting tool because I would bring that, and I have done actually some of this recently. I'd bring it to our development team and say, "This is what I was thinking. Is this something we can do? I just prototyped it out using this idea." So that's where you can try to maybe think about it. You should check it out, David.
Well, so basically we do that, right? I didn't know that that was the term, but you also have to keep in mind, like we're only scraping the surface of what's possible with this. This is brand new as far as us being able to access it easily. I actually heard, and this was maybe almost a year ago now, and it was an interview. I think it was like the CEO of Google, or like the past CEO of Google, something like that. And he was basically he was talking to a small room. It looked like a very educational setting. And he said, here's what's kind of scary. This was around the time that they were starting to talk about TikTok being taken down. He goes, okay, let's just say TikTok gets taken down. We're not far away from somebody being able to go to AI and say, please program me a new TikTok. And it would be able to design the entire application ready to go. And that's where we're headed. Something that complex and that capable, within a second, anybody could create almost whatever they wanted. And so you can think about how that's going to change the game. So we're not quite there yet. I was just talking to a good friend of mine. He's like a front end developer for an app company. So he's not a coder himself, but they were just recently tasked by their uppers. Okay, everybody has a project. They have to just come up with something and they have to use AI to make it. Right. And which I thought was a really cool thing to task people with this creative project. And he said what they did within 2 days, they created something that I think, if I'm recalling correctly, essentially it would troubleshoot all of their programming and find any reason why their front end was not matching up with their back end. And so they created an app that would do that, and it worked. And they created this after 2 days. He said, if I was a coder, it would have taken me at least a month. But I'm not a coder, and I was still able to do it. Like, we have some basic understanding, right? We had to have some understanding, but they were able to create that within 2 days.
Yeah, that is amazing. So I was experimenting with a tool called Base 44. They had developed this platform that kind of reminds me of other kind of consumer level platforms like Squarespace and others where you don't really know where to start. You don't know really what you're doing. I uploaded a brief into this tool, and I said, "This is my business brief of what I'm trying to do," and then it spit out generation one of what I was looking for. Of course, it then immediately I clicked on something and nothing worked. And then, of course, I'm like, why isn't it working? And so it said, oh, if nothing's working, ask the system to go ahead and fix the button. So I'm like, okay, how do you make this button work? And like, well, it's like now insert your quarter to continue. So this is where the
There we
credits
go.
are pouring on.
Got
You're
it.
like, you
Yeah,
need
of
so many
course.
credits per month. And now I'm going back and forth with this tool and it's building out this thing for me. At the end of the day, it was helpful to share with our development team what I was looking for. It introduced some other considerations I hadn't had before when I was just drawing it out in Figma. So it was helpful in that way. It wasn't fully functional though, so it's still like it will connect the right systems we wanted to, but it's not like it's doing all end to end, all the whole thing, thinking it all the way through and troubleshooting everything and making sure it's validated and working. So it's close. It's getting somewhere interesting. It's not there yet.
Yeah.
Um,
Figma also has its own AI, you know? I mean,
oh, do they now?
yeah, Figma has its own AI, and you can I just saw this the other day. You can basically tell Figma everything, the type of app you want to design and everything you want it to do, and it will create the wireframes of all of the different
Oh man,
screens that you need for that app to function. And it will even tell you like, oh, don't forget about doing this, and here's some ideas for this section. Like, you can do the whole, it's kind of like ChatGPT just connected to Figma, right?
that's incredible. Yeah, I did
Yeah.
play with a tool I think called Stitch with Google, maybe it's called, and that one also just creates the front end. It creates the user interface, and you can kind of go back and forth with it. But it felt really early. Like I felt like I was playing with an alpha the last time I was working with it. I'd be interested to try the Figma. I'll check that one out too. Have you used that tool in your work?
So we don't do too much with AI, like the creative side, because I really don't think it's there yet. It's still pretty limited. It's very hard to like get it to really follow the brand guidelines and come up with something unique, and it's not quite there, so we don't do too much with it. But we use it for some basic things. I mean, we had a client, they wanted to build a back end portal, and they gave us all the different requirements and things that they wanted to do, and we were able to put that summary into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT kind of came up with the whole user flow for us. Like, it's just helpful for organizing thoughts. Like, why wouldn't you
Yeah.
use it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I am on the same way. I'm using it all the time. So I can appreciate places where it's going to be useful to empower us. I just don't want it to replace us. That's where I'm always going to sit.
Well,
Because it
look,
does.
that's how painters felt about cameras, you know?
Yeah.
And there's still a place for painters. And there's people who are like, hey, this camera's pretty cool. Maybe I'll use that. Or like, maybe I'll go become an architect. I don't know.
I just had
It's
this
like,
vision of like, imagine in the future, X number of years in the future, is you're walking through this antique mall and you look over and there's like this studio and there's these little coders in there and they're coding in real time. And you could buy that moment of code, like you can buy art. I want to
yeah,
buy your code
videos
and I
and
want to see
videos
it on
of
my wall.
coders.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that would be so funny.
I mean, look, it's going to change. I'm excited for the day that AI can do what we do. You know what I mean? It's not there yet. I don't see that as a threat. I don't see that as a horrible situation. I see that as pretty amazing. And when that day comes, we just need to make sure that we're aware that it's coming, and we have to be aware that we're getting closer, and we have to evolve. And like, I just think all of these things, they're great equalizers, but you still have to be creative in the application. You still have to understand how they work. You still have to think, okay, well, if everybody could do this, what can I do that everybody still can't do? And it's
Yeah.
just, and then one day if robots replace everything and nobody has to work anymore, then great. I mean, that's fine with me
We can
too.
all move down to Mexico
Yeah,
and enjoy
I'm
our.
working. Yeah.
All right, one more question. You've built yourself up. You are in yourself a great brand, and then you've of course now have this organization, Scalar Marketing. So of course I have to ask this of all of our guests because you are successful. What is your best piece of advice that you would give somebody that's trying to get into web development, marketing these days? What would you say is your best advice for them?
Specifically web development.
I mean, yeah, getting into our industry, getting into building out interactive experiences online, getting into developing web experiences, all that kind of stuff.
I would say you really need to understand your capabilities.
Hmm.
So for example, I know that I'm not a good designer. So when I was starting out, I was designing websites myself. I could only charge so much because it really wasn't very good. And I think a lot of people, they really take a lot of pride in the work that they do, but there's such a big spectrum of talents and abilities and skills, and you just might not be there yet. So you really need to invest in either perfecting your craft and think, you're like, what is the best possible thing that I can be, and how do I get there? Or you need to figure out how to work with people that can maybe fill in some of the gaps that you don't necessarily want to fill in yourself. I think it's a lot of it is just about being honest with yourself. It kind of goes a little bit back to that authenticity piece. I think that's part of it. Or just say like, okay, I'm going to fill a certain niche, right? Like there's a lot of people that don't need to spend $1 million on a super creative website, and I don't need to provide that, and I can fill a different niche, right? But at the same time, there's a lot less competition at the top, and that's
Yeah.
just the way that it is. So if you're worried about competition, you either need to work with more talented people or become more talented yourself, and you constantly have to just get better at your craft. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, and take some risks.
Take some risks. So how would you say those folks should get themselves out there? How should they share what they're working on?
Well, are we talking about like web designers specifically?
Yeah, well, the web developers, because I think it's the catch 22. You wouldn't hire somebody without any experience. You would want to hire people that have something to show or something that they could bring to the table talent wise. So I'm just curious, when you're thinking about starting out, I feel like a lot of folks are struggling with, they just put their resume on one of these platforms like Indeed or LinkedIn, and they just expect they can just apply for jobs. So I'm curious from your standpoint, when you're looking at talent or you're looking at building that team, as you're saying, I mean, how do you determine these folks have that skill, especially when they're right at the beginning, they're right at the start of their career? How do they have that? How do they have an ability to show you what they've got?
Sure. So there's sites like Dribble, there's sites like Fiverr, there's sites like there's all sorts of different sites where you can, or Contra's a new one. We just found a designer off of Contra, right? And so there are these showcase websites where you can find people and hire them. Behance is another one of them. So if you're more of a visual designer, you can go to there. I'm sure, like, I don't know sites specifically for coders, but I'm sure there's sites for coders too. Look, ultimately, I think those are also all very they're just very competitive. They're oversaturated. So unless you are, one of the best designers, or you're like pretty good but are willing to sell your craft at a really low competitive price, I'm not sure that those are the best platforms, right? Because I know what we're looking for, and very few people match what we're looking for. So we know it when we see it, and even then, it's hard to find, right?
Yeah.
I think honestly, I think just that you have to get out there. So part of what my benefit was I burned the bridge, right? Like that's what it was. I quit my job and I moved across the country, and I said, I better figure this out. I understood what my worst case scenarios were, and I was willing to accept those if they happened. But I said, like, okay, I need to figure this out, and I cannot just sit around and do nothing. Like I have to put myself out there, and going to networking events, going to conferences, talking to people online, however you can connect with people. Understand that most people are going to say no, and most people are going to close the door in your face, and maybe read a few books on sales, because that's just part of the process, and you have to be okay with it, and that's just how you're going to do it. And if you don't want to, if you don't have the stomach for it, then find a job at a good company, and go that route, and that's okay too.
Well, okay,
You gotta.
so I'll bring it back to this to wrap it up. I met you at a show because you met some of the folks we work with at a show, and that was getting out there, and that was getting into the hustle and putting in effort to meet people face to face. And it does, for me, have no substitute. You just can't send out the cold emails and try to connect on all these different social networks and have the same kind of interaction or connection you would have with people if you just met them in person. And so I
There's
think it
no
was really,
comparison.
really important. Yeah, really important that we met at a show. So I would probably just pick that up from what you're saying. It's like if folks are wanting to kind of get into the industry, you might have to make an investment to get out there. But part of that should be look into the industry conferences that are going on and get out there onto the floor and meet companies and meet people and just see what's happening.
The level of investment to do that is so much smaller than people realize. At a
Yeah.
lot of these conferences, sometimes they even let people in for free, and you can just talk to everybody. But even a lot of the bigger ones, it's like $250, $350, and you have access to the entire week, and you can talk to everybody on the floor. Go out, go to a conference and talk to every single booth. Be willing to have like 100 really awkward conversations and see if something doesn't happen.
I know
You
it
know,
will happen. It will happen
it
because
will. It's just how it
the odds are
works.
ever in your favor.
And even the awkward conversations is like it's an opportunity to grow and learn and become a little bit more resilient, to be like, okay, well, maybe I could have said something differently. Like it's all opportunities. Like even the companies that I met, it's a relationship. They could refer me, but they introduce me to you. It's like that's okay. It's not a rejection. It's an opportunity to meet a new person and to grow your network and expand.
I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that. And David, I absolutely love this conversation today. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Sound of
Absolutely
Inbound. If
appreciate
anybody
it,
out
man.
there wants to check out David's work, you can go to Scalar Marketing. Is that correct? Scalarmarketing.com. It's
Yep.
up here on screen if you want to check it out. You can also connect with David. I'm sure he would love to connect with everybody out there on LinkedIn. It's easy to find him, David Nathan. And I'm hoping I'm going to see you at one of the future shows as well, because it was great to connect with you at Bio. It's a very energetic show this year, and it was great to sit down with you there
Absolutely.
too.
Likewise.
So I know our paths, even though we're further away now, but you will always be within our
That's right.
industry, and I know you'll be
I'm
within
still
the
going to shows.
You're still
Yeah.
going to go to shows, still going to go to
Yeah.
shows. Okay, so David,
And you
thank you
guys
so
are
much.
awesome. You guys are great. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate you even having the conversation with me. So
Oh, no, please. It's been wonderful. It's been wonderful. Okay. So again, check us out at soundofinbound.com. If you guys haven't checked that out yet, you can see all of our podcasts there. And you can also stream our shows on all your favorite streaming kind of networks and all that kind of good stuff. And again, check out David at scalarmarketing.com. Thank you so much for joining us today, David. Thank you. Everybody,
appreciate it,
bye-bye.
Aaron. Thanks, guys.